Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name's Clifton, and I'll be your host for this episode. Joining me is the man known for having a bike on the side, Jay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Clifton. Thank you. I like your intro. I like where that's going to go this episode.
That is a weird song. All right, what are we listening to?
We are listening to the album I Like Me by the Dell Griffiths.
Mhm.
This came out in 1995.
And it's easy to find to listen to?
Absolutely not. Someone has uploaded it on YouTube, thank goodness, but that's about the only way you're going to hear this.
But they didn't have a playlist, so I made a playlist on our channel.
Thank you.
So, yeah, they just had the individual songs uploaded. So how did we end up listening to this obscure piece of Christian music?
I had this album back in the day, and I'd been wanting to cover it anyway, and our last episode was Curious Fools, and this band is a side project of Curious Fools, so we thought this would just be a nice follow-up.
So if it's a side project of Curious Fools, I'm sure you have a lot to tell us about the band.
Yeah, since we struggled on our last episode to find a lot about Curious Fools, so this is even less. But again, side project of the guys in Curious Fools. Stephen Murray, who was a singer of Curious Fools, was also the co-founder of Via Records. This album came out on a division of Via called Swirly Records in 1995. And so this is an assumption on my part, but I'm guessing this was just kind of a platform for Murray and a couple of the other guys to do songs that weren't really Curious Fools-ish. This album is a lot more like kind of power pop.
Mm-hmm.
And so the musicians listed on this album, and they're listed just like this one word: Murray, Frank, Deaton, Roy, and someone occasionally known as Prune. So again, this is a little bit of a guess, but from what I've seen in the 90s Christian Music Recovery Group and on Discogs and other places, I think this is fairly accurate. You know, Murray is Stephen Murray, who does vocals, guitar, and keyboards. I mean, I think he even plays drums on one of the songs here. Frank is Dave Frank, who played on the first Curious Fools album, and on this he plays bass and keyboards and does background vocals most of the songs. He also does lead on a couple of songs with the vocals. And then Deaton is Troy Deaton, the guitarist of Curious Fools, who plays guitar on most of the songs here. I have no idea who Roy and Prune are, unfortunately, and any searching I did just kind of went to a dead end. So, yeah, very little is known about this. I also am not sure if they ever played this live, because really hard to find anything. And like so many of these albums we do, when you search Dell Griffith, you get, of course, the character from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This band is named after. So that's about all I got.
So Swirly was an imprint of Via Records. That's interesting.
Yes,
because the only other thing introduced under the Swirly moniker was Black Cherry Soda's Grin album, which was then re-released the next year on Via.
And that really may be the only two albums they did under the division, because it's not like Via was a big record label anyway, right. So I don't know what they're doing having divisions of it, but anyway.
That's kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So when did this album come into your life?
I think the year it came out, 1995, the way I remember finding out about this is I saw the ad in some music magazine. I don't know if it was HM or some little, like, we talked a little bit about This Prophecy, that little kind of more underground magazine, or something else. But I saw the ad somewhere, and the cover art for this is very, what would you say, kind of retro, like, looks like a kid from the 50s or 60s with a...
It looked like a 70s Life cereal commercial.
Yeah. I was thinking Howdy Doody, that's a bit earlier, but something like, something retro like that. It's in color.
Yeah.
But this smiling kid on the front. And, in the 90s, they had a lot of that kind of retro stuff. And so it was clear this was going to be some kind of alternative album. And I think I probably picked it up solely based on the cover art and just, seeing it advertised somewhere.
And so probably not knowing at that point that it was Curious Fools side band?
I don't think I knew that until recently.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I don't think I had any
Huh.
idea because, if you look in the liner notes, again, that's all you know. There's no hint that this is even connected other than it's the same record label.
Right. Huh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was this something you listened to a lot back in the day, or was it just?
No, I listened to it a little bit, and there were a couple songs I really liked, but
Mhm.
otherwise it was kind of like, oh, that was nice, and then I don't know, I probably moved on to some punk band on Tooth and Nail or
Right.
something like that.
What were the songs that stood out for you then?
The biggest one is Eddie, and that's still like the one that I probably like the most, and that was the most memorable. But a few others like the title song, "I Like Me" and "Me,"
Mhm.
those kind of ones.
Yeah. Okay. So I assume you hadn't listened to this from the '90s. What did you expect before you went back to it again?
Well, I knew I liked Eddie, and I actually think I'd somehow found that on YouTube a few years ago and listened to it
Hmm.
again. So I knew I liked that, but we just listened to Curious Fools, and I honestly wasn't a huge fan of that. So coming into this, I was a
Right.
little more like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna expect, but it
Yeah.
wasn't bad.
Yeah. It was enjoyable, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm curious, just your thoughts on that because you had never heard this, and all you
Right.
heard was Curious Fools. So what were you thinking this was going to sound like?
Oh, I had no idea. I mean, like you told me that I would probably like it more, so I didn't really know, or I assumed that meant it was gonna be like poppy or in some way, you know.
Hmm.
But I didn't really know what to expect, and it was the album's also kind of all over the map, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
it has a sound to it, but it varies between like power pop and just like guitar pop, which are similar, but like it has little different things going on. And like there's some songs that approach punk, you know, and but it's good.
good,
You want to dive into the album then?
sure.
All right, let's start with the first song, "Me, Me, Me."
I think this is a good song to start the album off with. It kind of starts with this bass line, leading in, and then guitars come in. One of them, and you know much more about guitars than I do, but one of them has this kind of like spacey sounding effect
Hmm.
as it comes in, and then the vocals follow quickly. And this song is pretty indicative of what you're going to hear the rest of the album because the vocals are really upfront. The like kind of music, especially during the verses, is pulled back a
Hmm.
little bit. And while I'm grateful there's a lyric sheet for this, I don't think that you'd really need it for this album. It's pretty
No, you
clear
could get
what
it.
what he's saying on every single song.
You might question it because it might seem like gibberish. And you're like, did I hear it right?
Right.
But
I think I'll go to a picture show, see what life is like.
But it's easy to understand. It's clear early on, just in this first song, that this is going to be a pop record.
Mhm.
And this song, like most of them, is very simple song structure, like verse, chorus, maybe a bridge, maybe not. Then we're finished, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's I criticized Curious Fools last episode for having very simple, for having really the same arrangement for every song, and this is no different here.
Yeah.
They fall victim to the same exact thing here. So yeah,
Personally,
I
I
will
think
say,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say I think it works better for this style of music,
Mhm.
because you're not
Oh yeah.
expecting a lot with this type of thing. Where Curious Fools is trying to make it a little more. They're trying to add more depth to it, and I don't know if that always works.
Yeah. I will say though that the kind of the bass intro has such a sound to it that you're not sure if this is going to be more Curious Fools or if it's going to be something different. But then all of a sudden, this synth comes in. It's just one of those like 80s new wave influenced
Hmm.
synths, and it's really through most of the album that synth is there, and it works really well, and it gives a nice poppiness to the songs. And whoever did the synths was good at what they're doing.
And then I think when his vocals come in, just the style of the vocals, you're like, okay, this is like
Yeah, it's not you two. Thank God.
right. Yeah, to give him credit, he's got quite a bit of range because
Yeah.
I think he does some pretty good Bono-ish stuff on Curious Fools, but this is nothing like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was so Bono like on Curious Fools that I was like, maybe that's all he's capable of. Like he just like he heard U2 and it kind of just got stuck. I don't know, but yeah, you learn real fast in this album that he's actually capable of more than that.
I want to talk about the lyrics on this one. Is there anything else in the music?
You know, I will say that the guitar tone on this is really different than Curious Fools, whereas, you know, Curious Fools has kind of like what we would call classic rock, although what we listen to these days is called classic rock when we were kids, you know.
I know.
You know, but the classic rock that we grew up with, kind of that crunchy sound of guitar, was the Curious Fools sound. But on this one, it has a lot like creamier and chewier.
I walk outside of my front door. 2 steps and I get mugged. Now I realize I'm not like other guys. It's just a me. Is it just a me? Is it just a me, or is pleasure of pain?
More like a 90s appropriate kind of fuzzy guitar going on, and it's a really good guitar tone, and you know, I think it says a lot for Deaton, that he can switch things up as appropriate to whatever he's doing like that pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm going to jump into the lyrics. Like Curious Fools, it's pretty short on all the songs, so you're not going to have to hear me read a lot. But I'll read them for this song. He says, I think I'll go to a picture show, see what life is like. Here comes the part where he lets love for her show and sticks her with a knife. And the chorus is, now I realize I'm not like other guys. Is it just me? Is it just me? Is it just me, or is pleasure a pain? And then the second verse is, I think I'll go out and cut a rug, maybe have a good time. I walk outside of my front door, 2 steps and I get mugged. Now I realize I'm not like other guys. Is it just me? The chorus repeats. And at the end he says, now I realize funds for other guys. And then the Clifton, I didn't know if you noticed this, there is one part in the bridge that
Yeah,
has
that's kind of
vocals.
mumbled stuff.
Around just like all the other guys. Things just seem to pass me by. Never seem to have a good time. But now I realize the fun's for other guys and not me.
That are not in the lyrics, and I think I got them right. I'm going to read them. I could
think
be
you
a
did
little
too, yeah.
wrong, but he says, he either says look or walk around. I think maybe walk around just like all the other guys. Things just seem to pass me by. Never seem to have a good time. So, I guess my question reading this is this saying like he should just be a hermit and never go out because bad things happen to him all the time?
So my other interpretation for it, like I had that interpretation. My other interpretation for it was that he thinks that other people enjoy those things. Like he thinks that that's what other people find fun, like stabbing their girlfriend in the first verse, I guess, or getting mugged in the second verse. You know, I don't know.
I was wondering that too, because he says, I realize I'm not like other guys. And then at the end he says, I realize fun's for other guys. And I was like, wait, so are you implying that, yeah, stabbing your girlfriend is fun and mugging people is fun and you want to achieve? I don't know. Then I thought I'm probably reading too much into this.
Yeah. Definitely reading too much into it. These are, I think either way, these are really weird, gross overgeneralizations. I mean, I assume it's supposed to be cute and sarcastic in some sort of way, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know what sort of way that is, because it is a weird song.
It kind of seems like a traditional, like, you know, love seems to be working for everyone else but not me type of song.
But then it's not about love. It's just about fun instead of love.
Well, you're right, but he says, or is pleasure a pain? I guess you're right, that's fun, but I don't know. I'm just assuming it's, you know, You're right. It's not specifically about love now that I'm thinking about it. So, true. Okay.
But I will say that the line, is it just me or is pleasure a pain, is kind of a good line. I feel like that about a lot of these songs where there's like one good line, and I felt like they half-assed put in some effort to get some lyrics to go with that one good line.
Yeah. I'll just go ahead and say it now. But I'll probably repeat it later. I think this album could have used a producer who was not Curious Fools. Or Dell Griffiths. Yes. Sorry, I should stop saying Curious Fools. Dell Griffiths, because it's self-produced. I think all the Curious Fools stuff is self-produced too, and I would love to hear some of these songs with someone else, on at the controls that threw out some new ideas. And yeah, Fort
Pulled
said,
back on
hey,
some
those
ideas.
lyrics, rewrite whatever. Like,
Yeah.
just worked on it a little more.
Yeah, so someone holding their feet to the fire a little bit, just to. But also, like, I don't know if you could say they were just having fun with this album, so they threw it together. But at the same time, if you're gonna put an album out, put enough effort into it that the lyrics make sense. I don't know, right? Like,
Yeah.
My point being, I almost forgave them for that, but then I'm like, well, no, you did put it out as an album. You did. It's not like you just recorded some songs and threw them in the back of like a cassette and handed them out to your friends. I mean, it's
Right.
Yeah.
It's a full album, not an EP. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Let's move on to the next song, Be Beautiful.
Yeah, I almost skipped this one, and then Clifton wanted to do it, and I'm glad you did, because the more I came back to it, the more I liked this song.
Yeah.
I think it follows Me, Me, Me really well,
Mhm.
and it just kind of starts right into the full band with distortion and everything. But it does have, the verses kind of have this undistorted, like, picked guitar before
Yeah,
it
an
goes back to
arpeggiated guitar, yeah.
Yeah, before it goes
Yeah.
back to distortion on the chorus.
I know you think that you know just what I like, but you've never been that good at reading my mind. Well, I guess I should be clear.
It's got more of I don't know what the right way to call it, maybe traditional pop feel, because it's got, the song has some OOOs and background vocals, and it's you even got like a little bit of a yell that leads into like a little bridge with a really short guitar solo.
Be beautiful. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah.
A little more aggressive drumming on this as well. It looks like Roy is the drummer rather than the guitarist Deaton, who was on Me, Me, Me. They kind of all just trade off roles on this album. And I thought this one had a little bit more clever lyrics.
Yes.
If I'm understanding them right. But what am I
think so.
What else am I missing on the music part of this?
Yeah, so, I mean, it has background vocals on it, which I guess that means Curious Fools is capable of background vocals, so I don't know why they didn't use them on their other album. I will say that as this song goes into the chorus, I'm almost expecting it to be Me, Me, Me again. First,
Right.
I don't know why, I just have this weird feeling like it's going to be Me, Me, Me again, but then it's not.
When I tell you what I need from you, yeah. I don't care if you're beautiful, I only care if you're not. I know I said you should be everything you really are, but there's one thing I forgot. Just be beautiful. Be beautiful.
And also, there's a name of the song "Be Beautiful" occurs as a background vocal during the chorus, and it's this really like monotone "Be Beautiful" kind of thing, and it works really well, I think.
Well, let me do the lyrics, because this one, I think this may be one of the most clever lyrics on the album, at least a couple parts. He says, I know you think you know just what I like, but you've never been that good at reading my mind. Well, I guess I should be clear when I tell you what I need from you. And here's the chorus. I don't care if you're beautiful. I only care if you're not. I know I said you should be everything you really are, but there's one thing I forgot. Just be beautiful. Be beautiful. I don't care if people stare at you. It only means that I'll get noticed too. You may think I'm rather shallow, but I can't help what I turned into. And so I like how he says, I don't care if you're beautiful. I only care if you're not. And there's one thing, and he said, I know I should be everything you really are. There's just one thing I forgot. And then he just says, just be beautiful. Be beautiful. So I kind of took this song, and I liked this as, a lot of people kind of have that fake humility and like, oh, I don't care about looks. or I don't care about that, but then deep down that's exactly what they care about. So that's what I took this as, and I really liked that and thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, it is clever and it's interesting because I don't know if it could be that. It could also just be a little bit different, which is this person thinks they don't care about beauty, but then they do, right? Either way, it's very interesting. Although there's a difference in interpretation between like outright shallowness and like, oh shit, I'm shallow, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I don't know which one of those it is, but I tend towards your interpretation because there's kind of a tongue-in-cheekness about these lyrics. Yeah, but it's really interesting, and I feel like when I first read through the lyrics on this song, the first thing that came to my mind was when I first started dating the girlfriend I had towards the end of high school. I remember like the first time I like walked into a room of other people with her, like, you know, other than just like our close friends, and thinking like, everyone in here is probably jealous of me because I have the most beautiful girl in here beside me, you know, and like, and like I remember thinking like, oh shit, I shouldn't think that, but at the same time, I did. So,
wow, so you even at that age, you had kind of a guilt about thinking.
Oh yeah.
Wow, interesting. I don't think I would have been that aware. I would have just been like, hell yeah, like yeah, unfortunately, but that's probably where I would have been in high school.
Yeah, but it definitely like viscerally brought that back to mind for me. Like put me back in that situation. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, and it does. Yeah. So, and that does carry it forward a little bit, right? Like, I want them to be beautiful because that's attracted to me, but also I want them to be beautiful because I want them being beautiful and being with me makes me more attracted to other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is
it's very weird.
Yeah.
I think the part that really struck me when I was a kid was like, I didn't think of myself like that. And then when those thoughts occurred to me, I was like, where is this coming from?
That's funny. You know, I think I went on 1 or 2 dates with this girl at the end of high school that was a little bit like that. And I remember a kid in youth group of all places telling me, he's like, I look at you in a completely different way now. Like I wasn't capable, you know what I mean? Like that was some kind of new status level I'd achieved by who I was dating. And so, and I hadn't thought about that with this song until you said that, but yeah. Now that's loaded with all kinds of other problematic ideas, but
it is, but I think that's what the song is kind of hinting at here.
I think you're probably right.
I think it's probably one step removed from that in the sense that this person is saying, now that I've experienced that, that's what I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
That may be the shallowness that's here. It's hard to say because it's a little vague, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting song, and I wish I could talk to them about what they were thinking when they wrote this, because it's probably like a throwaway song to them, but at the same time, it's a very interesting take on this weird kind of thought that probably occurs to most people,
right?
Or most guys, at least. I don't know, right?
Yeah,
I can only speak for.
Well, and that's kind of I don't know if problem's the right word, but that's kind of an issue with this album is you don't know how seriously to take any of the songs.
Any of it. Right.
Because they're called, again, the Dell Griffiths, which is John Candy's character on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And the title is I Like Me, you know, which is, we'll probably get to it on this next song, but it's a quote from that movie.
Yeah.
And some of the songs that we're going to cover in a second are clearly like kind of more joke songs.
Right. So. Yes. We're about to get to some, yeah. Well, let's do it. Let's get into I Like Me, song number 3.
Yeah, so I do think these first 3 songs flow really well together, and it's honestly a pretty good start to the album. You know, this just follows up immediately. You kind of have a count off for the song, and then these weird effects as the guitars come in.
Mm-hmm.
In the credits for this, there's some strange vocal effects are credited to Prune and listed as Spreckenspell.
This cool. I didn't wear the clothes I wear. I only thought about the wrongs of this world. Never the cut of my hair.
Which I don't know if they meant to say speak and spell that, you know, old machine, or if it's just something else. I googled
Sprechen is German for speak.
Right, but I don't know. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I think it's maybe either those kind of distorted vocals that come in towards the end, or there's also background vocals that come in really high at parts.
This song has a little bit of a different feel to it. This song is more alternative, whereas the other two have been like, the first one's like guitar pop, the second one's more power pop, and then this one has a little more alternative feel to the verses. Now the chorus is just, once again, just like bubblegum pop, but the verses have this very alternative feel where there's like this weird distortion going on with the vocals, and there's a lot of like noise making, right? Like tonal noise making, but just still noise making.
Well, I put that in my note. There's a lot going on in the background in
Yes.
parts of the song. Like I was having trouble even differentiating what all I'm hearing, which is almost like they spent in some weird way, the most time on this song with the instrumentation, because some of the other songs are very simple.
Right.
Yet the song is only about 2 minutes long. And honestly, it probably does everything it needs to do within that 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think it's the worst song on the album.
So let me read the lyrics, and then I'll kind of connect with that.
Okay.
So the lyrics are, once upon a time I wasn't this cool. I didn't wear the clothes I wear. I only thought about the wrongs in this world, never the cut of my hair. But now I see there's no one like me. And the chorus is, I like me, I can rock around the world. I like me, I'm gonna rock around the world. And then the second verse gets even weirder. He says, you can see that I ain't kicking no hype. I like to shake it when I can. In the day of the humble type, what can I say? I'm a fan. And here's my guess on this, is that they built this song around the chorus. And when I say the chorus, I mean just, I like me.
Right.
And then kind of went out from there. And so, and I'm wondering if it's okay if we play this. I like me is this quote from John Candy, who plays this character named Dell Griffiths in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And it's a funny movie. And at this moment, Steve Martin has just been like, he's completely exhausted with him. He's basically just said, you are the most annoying human being on the planet. And this is kind of Dell's response to that.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
I love the dramatic music coming in while he's having that kind of monologue. But, you know, the album title is I Like Me, which is exactly how he says it in that quote. And so I thought this song especially would maybe allude more to that character in that movie, but it doesn't.
Nope.
Unless I'm forgetting something, because I'm pretty sure Dell Griffith doesn't talk about rocking around the world. So, yeah, that's my guess, Clifton, is that they just took that line and then kind of built a song around it. And by the time they got done with it, it really had nothing to do
Right.
with any of that.
Or they just wrote this song and they also like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and were like, these are kind of the same thing.
True. But I don't even know what they mean. I'm going to rock around the world.
No, this song makes no sense.
Right. I mean, the first verse is kind of funny if you think about it. Like, once upon a time, I wasn't this cool. I didn't wear the clothes I wear. I only thought about the wrongs in this world, which I would say is probably actually a more positive thing to think about than your clothes. But then he says, never the cut of my hair. Like, it's more important now to think about my haircut than it is about the wrongs in this world, which is kind of funny. You
It
know,
is funny.
but then again, I have no idea what's going on with the second verse where he says, "You can see that I ain't kicking no hype." I did Google "kicking no hype" to just make sure I wasn't missing something, and nothing came up. So yeah, I got no idea.
Yeah, and I feel like to really round out this song, you either need the second verse to give you a hint into the tongue-in-cheekness, or you need the second verse to make a turn from the first verse.
Hmm.
But something so that glorifying caring about your haircut over the wrongs in the world isn't the point of this song.
Yeah. I do think the chorus is catchy. Like, it gets in my
Yeah.
head a little bit, but it doesn't really make sense.
No. And then, with as short as this song is, it kind of devolves into this like almost poppy version of Curious Fools at the end, where they're just like soloing over each other and
Yeah.
doing random things, and it's a little obnoxious.
Yeah, it's kind of a faster song on this album, and it sounds like it's like kind of, heading off the runway at the end or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
But again, the chorus is catchy, which I really like. I mean, that's what you want on this type of album. But
Mhm.
this is definitely one of those songs where you're like, okay, I don't think we're supposed to take this seriously, so I
Yeah.
guess that's it.
While I don't want to say you need to spoon feed your listeners, you still need to give a hint that you're in on the joke.
Yeah. Which again, the first verse I felt like maybe they were, but then I don't know where this went after that.
Exactly.
So
Right. But because the second verse almost just keeps going with it, and you're like, okay, well, I mean, the joke is done, guys. Like,
Yeah.
that was the joke. You know?
second verse just seems like found some words to rhyme. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the chorus. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not going to talk about the next two songs. You Got in My Head, because I think Jay doesn't like this song, even though it's one of the better songs on the album, I think.
That's interesting. We're so split on that. I think it's just really boring. I think some
Yeah.
lyrics are terrible. It's got, who sings it? One of the other people besides Murray
Right, yeah.
sings it. Yeah, Frank, who mostly on the other songs kind of plays bass, sings it. It's a little bit of a different register where he sings. I don't know. I'm not into it. So
There's also this really obnoxious, like 80s kind of power ballad, like, oh, yeah, thing on the intro, which is really
Yeah.
obnoxious. But other than that, it's just kind of a goofy song.
Yep.
The vocals are like super breathy, I think, and I don't know. It's just a weird song, but it also has like this like riff in the intro and in the chorus that I felt like the first time I listened to it, I thought to myself, I've heard this 1,000 times.
Huh.
But I don't know where,
Interesting. We also are going to skip a song about a girlfriend that's called Girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a cover of I Got You from a band called Split Ends, E-N-Z. That's a band from New Zealand that I had never heard of. And I went and listened to the original version and thought, yep, definitely never heard this. And a criticism I have, and there's another cover on the album we'll talk about in a minute, but this is also a criticism I have of Curious Fools as well, is that their covers sound way too much like the original song.
Mhm.
I felt like this sounded almost exactly like
Yes.
the original Split End song. So much so that you think, well, what's the...
Right,
I don't
why
know.
cover it?
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
you're going to record a cover song, you should put your own spin on it. And
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's go to track 7, King of Almost.
yeah, so I'll say one of the reasons I wanted to do this is that if you, in the liner notes,
Mm-hmm.
Background where the lyrics are written is kind of maybe it was a painting or some piece of art that it looks like Murray did
Mm-hmm.
with kind of a half of a face and maybe it looks like he's walking away from a city or something with lights coming out from it, and then the lyrics are around the edge. So I'm just assuming this was at least important enough to him to do it,
Right.
art of it. And I don't know if they thought this was going to be the single or what, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
It's also recorded somewhere different.
Oh, that's true. There were a couple that recorded different places. Yeah.
And it's mixed way quieter than the previous tracks.
There's no need to cry, no need to ask why. Life simply slips by on its way to someone else. It's sad how it goes. Someone else's.
Yeah, it kind of like it's a change
Yeah.
in sound.
It's not quieter than the previous tracks. Like, it's a harder song. Like, it's more wall of sound guitars on this one, but it's like when they mix the album, they just like, well, let's turn down the volume for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah. And it starts kind of immediately with the vocals and the whole band
Mhm.
coming in. You're right. Just like boom. And I said I was putting in my notes, it has a different feel. And I said less power pop and maybe more
Mhm.
power ballad. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of harder, kind of darker. And also, the vocals are very different on this song from the other songs, where they're more kind of like a strained breathiness, you
Yep.
know.
I
which
had that strained word in my notes too. And it's
Yeah.
just like Curious Fools sometimes. And I'm not digging it, you know.
but to me, it made it sound more like '90s radio friendly.
Oh yeah, early 90s.
Right.
Like the chorus, I never seem to get, like he does, which he does not, they don't do anywhere else up to this point on the album. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, guys, come on, just save that for Curious Fools, not your side project.
I never seem to get closer than so close. I ain't got nothing yet. Just call me king of
Before I get to the lyrics, anything else about the music on this one?
Yeah, I think it's a serviceable song. And this is my problem with Curious Fools too, was that it's a good song, but there's just nothing special about it. It just fails to bring it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Here's the lyrics, and I do think the phrase "King of Almost" is clever. I mean, it's not bad.
I
It's a
agree.
good name for the song. But let's put it in context with the rest of the lyrics. He says, there's no need to cry, no need to ask why. Life simply slips by on its way to someone else. That's a good line, by the way. Life simply slips by on its way to someone else. It's sad how it goes. Someone else is the hero. In a world where luck shows, I look like less than zero. But I'll keep it open. And here's the chorus. And that's where he's like, never. But he goes, I never seem to get closer than close. I ain't got nothing yet. Just call me king of almost. And then the last part he says, it seems painfully clear I'll always be right here. There's nothing left to do except wish I was more like you. But I'll keep it open to keep on hoping. This, to me, might be the only song where they maybe mention God. He says, except
Right.
wish I was more like you. I'm
Mhm.
guessing that's God. And the only reason I am is because this came out, on a Christian label in the Christian world. If it wasn't, I wouldn't even be thinking that. But it's kind of the time you got like, okay, there's got to be something in here somewhere.
It's either God or it's just pure looking at someone else and being like, man, I wish I was someone else and not me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And it could be with what this song is talking about. I kind of thought this song is a little too earnest for this album. Like
yeah.
most of the songs are kind of jokey and fun, or at least you can take them that way. And this one seemed to
Right.
be a lot more not that. And stylistically a little bit too, kind of with those strained vocals. I would have probably left this off and figured out a way to make this more of a Curious Fools song or something, but that's me.
That's a good point. Yeah, it almost doesn't belong to this album. It is more pop than Curious Fools is, but it's not the same kind of pop that this album is.
Right.
Yeah. this album has a lot of like bubblegum going on to it, kind of like throwaway songs, kind of that are just fun, and this is not one of those songs.
Yeah, there's a cover of the car, like a Cars song on this album, and that's exactly what I kind of want this album to sound like, is the Cars.
Right.
Like that's like the peak of this style of music, and I feel like occasionally they're on track.
Oh yeah,
with that, but this song is not at all in that vein.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think there's anything else to talk about for the lyrics there, because it's just this isn't a song that's not confusing.
Yep,
and it's just blah. Yeah,
yeah.
All right, well, let's go on to number 8, Eddie.
I love this song. I put in my notes, oh my god, I love this song. This is my favorite one back in the day. It's still my favorite on the album. It's super short, but it makes me want to just put on repeat and listen to it again. Yeah, I'll just say, so the song starts with some kind of undecipherable vocals in the background, and then there's, again, I don't play guitar, but I'm assuming it's someone kind of running their hands up and down like the frets of a guitar.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Either fingers or a pick, but probably fingers, yeah.
Yeah. And then it just kicks in. It's probably the most upbeat of all the songs on the album, which Clifton knows me well, so he'll be like, yeah, that's probably the one Jay will like. Yep. And Dave Frank sings this one, and I did not like the other song he did, but this one I think is great. Like, just where he is in his register and pitch and everything. It's great. And this one is super simple. There's no real bridge to this. It's just kind of verse, chorus type of thing. Let me read the lyrics, because I feel like listeners, you'll know what it's about, I assume, as I read them. And this, honestly, this is what I was wanting more on this album, like songs like this. This is what I thought they were going for originally. He says, all alone in your house of stone. And I think he says on high. The lyrics don't say that, but I'm going to say it like I think he says. All alone in your house of stone on high, world full of wonder seen in your eyes, waiting, hoping, praying for the day that your father wakes up and he gives you the arms that he's made. And
I'm like, wait, is this?
Uh-huh.
It's okay. Let me wait. So
yeah. Just wait. You will have no doubt in a minute. Hey Eddie, I can relate. Hey Eddie, I can relate. And I know what it feels like to keep cutting your face. Hey Eddie, I can relate. And then if you had any questions and you were like, well, is this what it's really about? Here you go. Listen to this verse. Moving in with your newfound family, trimming all the neighbors' hedges for free, falling in love with a girl who dates a pig, who just happens to be Winona Ryder in a blonde wig. Hey, Eddie, I can relate all that. I'll read. Now you could probably know that it's Edward Scissorhands. I'll read the last verse. He says, go to jail for picking a lock on a door, being accused of attacking the town whore. Scared and confused, why does no one understand? Life can be so unfair to a boy who has scissors for hands. I just think this song is super fun. It's super simple. It's super silly. I love it, and I wish every song on the album were like this. Then I would think this is like top 10. Anyway, I'm a little obsessed with this song, but this is, I'll stop.
The line "trimming all your neighbors' hedges for free" really cracked me up when I first listened to the song.
Well, and probably so the first time you heard it, were you kind of like, "Wait a minute, is this Edward?" And then when the Winona Ryder line comes in, you're like, "Okay, definitely."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And this song, in a little bit, reminds me of Fan Mail and kind of the same kind of power pop that they were doing. This were like really simple, kind of tongue in cheek, just having fun with things, kind of power pop. Yeah.
And that's what, when I saw the title of the album and the cover and everything, I thought almost every song was going to be like this. So in some ways, I'm disappointed that there aren't more, like this. I thought it'd be fun, more movie songs and pop culture references, and it's not in a lot of them.
Yeah. It would have, if they had put some more effort into it in that direction, it could have been a really fun album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that being said, I love this song, and I've probably listened to it, 10, 20 times more than all the other songs on this album.
It is a good song. The next one, Funky Chick, should be mentioned because it's their grunge song. And then moving on.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're not covering it because it's a throwaway song. You can tell it's
It is.
we need another song. Okay, we'll make up this weird one that's not exactly even a song. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Moving on to track number 10, My Bike.
And I'll be honest, this one might have been a throwaway song too, but the more I listened to it and thought about it, the more I wanted to say something about it. So, yeah. But I'll talk about the music first. So it's a drumstick count to start. And then it's kind of like, and I guess it fits, it's kind of, I want to say like biker rock sounding guitar kind of comes in.
Big wheels keep on spinning, and my lips they turn up grinning. Every run I will be winning.
It's got some weird echoey effect in the background. And this one has, again, all I know this guy's name is Prune. He's the main vocalist on the verses. So it's definitely a different sound voice. And I assume it's Murray doing the choruses because they sound more like him. And, I think the sound of the song tells you it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I think. Like, it just doesn't sound serious.
And the first line.
Right. Big wheels keep on spinning, right? Like,
yeah, which is like to Creedence Clearwater's "Big Wheel Keep on Turning."
Yeah, and the sound of it too. With that, you're like, okay, I don't think this is.
Yeah.
On the second kind of verse, Prune gets kind of revved up in his vocal delivery as he delivers the end of that.
Don't wanna leave me. I'll just take her for an easy ride until the morning's by our side. I can't wait till my next little ride. She's my bike and she feels so alright. I want to ride my bike tonight.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me to the lyrics, and I'm going to read them out. I also had my wife read these, and I didn't say anything. I just like, give me your take on these, and she got what I was getting, so I thought, okay, I'm not crazy. So I'm just going to read them out loud, and just, listener, think about what pops into your head. It says, big wheels keep spinning, and my lips, they turn up grinning. Every run I will be winning, with this baby I've been dreaming. Every time this world goes on a slide, I'll take her out, and I'll go for a little ride. Here's the chorus. She's my bike, and she feels so right. I want to ride my bike tonight. She's my bike, and we never fight. I want to ride my bike tonight. And this is the part that you just kind of heard with his vocals doing weird stuff. He says, I can't wait until tomorrow. Ride away the pain and sorrow. When trouble doesn't want to leave me, I'll just take her for an easy ride until the morning's by our side. I can't wait till my next little ride. So I've thought a lot about this and I've kind of gone back and forth on it, but I think there's a lot of innuendo in this song, whether it's intentional or not. I mean, you've got the lips, they turn up grinning. He refers to the bike as a female, and he says, she feels so right. I want to ride my bike tonight.
In those vocal deliveries, there's some real need.
Yes.
Like a desperate need in those vocal deliveries.
And I even thought to myself, I said, okay, why at night? Like, why can't it be something like, she's my bike and she feels okay. I want to ride my bike today. like it didn't have to be for the rhyme. I know sometimes you have to use certain words to make the song rhyme, but this was not one of those. And he also says, ride away the pain and sorrow. When trouble doesn't want to leave me, I'll take her for an easy ride until the morning's by her side. And, if you go to the Oxford English Dictionary, an easy rider is slang for a sexually satisfying lover. And again, maybe the Dell Griffiths meant this as innuendo. Maybe they didn't. But I think it gets at something bigger that you see in evangelical Christianity, especially in the 1990s. Because the 1990s was kind of the peak of the evangelical purity movement. You had True Love Waits, which was huge. I Kissed Dating Goodbye came out in 1997. And this didn't happen in a bubble. And this is not not at all my own thoughts, but like is authors like, Kristen Cobes-Dumas have pointed out, she's the author of Jesus and John Wayne, like the Cold War was over in the 90s, right? You didn't have the godless communists to view as an enemy anymore, so things turn inward. And I promise I'm going to get back to the song, but it's just an aside to think about it. And I want to read you a quote. This is from Sarah Mosliner. She's the author of a book called Virgin Nation, Sexual Purity in American Adolescence. And this is an interview she did with Religion Dispatches, and we'll put the link in the show notes. But she said, sexual purity movements, past and present, are not ultimately about promoting a biblical view of sexuality. They're about explaining large-scale culture crises. For example, the Anglo-Saxon decline, the Cold War, changing gender roles and sexual mores, and providing a formula for overcoming those crises. One more quote from her. Each historical example I analyze, that's her speaking, demonstrates that purity work and rhetoric has emerged at moments when socially conservative evangelicals seek to assert and maintain their political power. Sexual purity isn't about what Abby and Brendan do on a Friday night. It's about constructing a view of the United States as a nation in distress and claiming that evangelical Christianity can not only best explain the crisis, but can save us from our demise. And so this focus on sexual purity didn't mean that Christian teenagers lost the desire to have sex, right? On the contrary, it meant that desire came out in really strange ways. In the 1990s was also the rise of Christian worship music. And there's some lyrics with some pretty strong innuendo that I didn't even think about at the time. But I mean, think about that song we always sang, I want to touch you. I want to see your face. I want to know you more, from Hillsong and all those others. It's like, you start to think about it now, and I don't know. It's weird, right? It became so much a thing that even South Park spoofed it. And I'm hoping we could play just part of that clip, Clifton. This is Cartman with a new record deal.
Guys, we here at Faith Records were very moved by your performance at Christ Fest. You're one of the most talented Christian rock bands we've ever heard.
Thank you so much. Christ has really blessed us with talent. Yeah.
We just had one question, though. We were looking over some of your lyrics. I want to walk hand in hand with Jesus on a private beach for two. I want him to nibble on my ear and say, I'm here for you. It seems you really love Christ.
Yes, we sure do.
No, but it appears you are actually in love with Christ.
Well, what are you saying? That you don't really love Christ?
Well, of course I do. I mean, I just...
Well, what's the difference? You love Christ, you're in love with Christ? I mean, what the heck is this?
We just like to make sure the bands we sign are in it for God and not for the money.
I resent that, sir. I have never in my life done anything just for the money. If I'm lying, may the Lord strike me down right now.
That's all we needed to know. Just sign here and we'll get your album sold.
And you could stop it there. But, so to bring it back to my bike, I think like the 90s, evangelical Christianity's focus on purity was really about power. And honestly, as South Park hints at right there, also about money. But unfortunately, the results of these teachings led to some pretty weird things. And you've got sexually repressed people writing, explicit worship songs or probably suggestive songs about their bikes. And we talked about this before, but, being told over and over that sex is bad, don't do it, you're dirty if you do it before marriage. And then expecting mind-blowing sex when you're married is always going to, at a minimum, lead to disappointment, if not actual real kind of psychological issues later on. So I know that seems like an aside, but I just kept thinking about the song and thinking, like, I really feel like he's talking about sex. And I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not. But either way, the culture that this came out in, it had to be hidden. And there's just so much baggage from that.
And yeah. So Jay typed up all the lyrics into our notes, except for I think I did this song on the next one. And while I was typing them up, I was like, "There's some real fucking implications about this song. Like, it's just this is weird. Like, I mean, it's creepy to an extent, right?" Which leaves you with the question, as you pointed out, like, is this on purpose? Is it? If this is tongue in cheek, like, what's the joke? Like, is the joke, I want to fuck? Like, that's not a joke, I guess. I don't know. I guess the joke could be, I want to, but we're not supposed to. I don't know. It's just.
Right, and I think that probably maybe was part of it. Like, I'm not supposed to talk about this. Hee. I'm hiding it in here.
Or I have to transfer my sexual energies in unhealthy directions. You know, I don't know what the joke is here, but it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
I think that's the key here, just that it's whatever they're saying here, it doesn't matter because it's unhealthy.
And also, like, okay, again, maybe it's just about a bike, but I don't think so. And some of the lyrics, too, like, almost using sex as a way to overcome, like the last verse, he says, I can't wait until tomorrow, ride away the pain and sorrow. When trouble doesn't want to leave me, I'll just take her for an easy ride until the morning's by her side. Like, I'm having these issues.
All night long.
Right, yeah. It's like, I'm going to use sex as a way to process through this stuff, but I'm not really supposed to be having sex or talking about it because I'm a Christian. I don't know. It's, yeah.
Yep.
So, and you know, that's a theme we've touched on the show. I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot more. There's like this really repressed Christian sexuality that really screwed up a bunch of people from this time period.
Well, the next song we're going to skip, but this is, as Jay mentioned, a cover of The Cars, Kings of Guitar Pop, their tongue-in-cheek classic, Best Friend's Girl.
Which is a great song. And Dell Griffiths do a good job at it, but my problem with it is it's just pretty much exactly like The Cars.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think it's a good cover.
Oh, so what makes you... What was their unique spin they put on this, then?
So The Cars, especially in this era, like when this song came out, are like really hugging that line between guitar pop and new wave.
Okay.
And so this song has a little bit of like, in the original delivery, had a little bit of like that kind of ironic detachment to it. Whereas this is more fun, bubblegum, just like, there's kind of like some 60s styles harmonies going on here. And there's just some like more random noises and like people laughing and things like that in this song. I think it's actually a kind of a fun take. Like it's probably like the same beats per minute as the Cars version, right?
Yeah.
But there's at least a little bit of creativity in the delivery here, I think, where I think they do add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of fun to it where that's not in the Cars version.
I will say it's the perfect cover for this album. Like, to me, this is what I thought the whole album was going to be like, that style of music.
Yeah, if this whole album had been this Cars cover and Eddie and other songs like them, it would have been a great album.
Yes, yeah.
I will say, when I was looking up the Cars, I played it on YouTube, because that's the first thing that came up when I was looking for it. And the first comment on the YouTube video is, I'm only 5 years old, but this is better than anything they play in daycare. Which is kind of the perfect comment for this song, because it is kind of childish. Like there is like an almost like it's that very bubblegum aspect to it, right? Which is just like it's almost made for kids, but it's not. Which is kind of what the Cars were doing tongue in cheek, right? But it's anyways, yeah.
That's great.
Anyways, let's move on to the last song, Anakin.
Which this song thematically, maybe is the right way to put it, follows what we were just talking about and fits with that. And I like that. Now, musically, it's quite a bit different. It's long. I think it's close to 5 minutes long, which is, I'm sure why they stuck it at the end of the album. It's probably the slowest song on the album. It just kind of starts with, to me, it sounds like drum machine beats. And then just these single guitar chords being strummed kind of slowly. And Murray's vocals come in and they're very serious sounding. which makes this song pretty fun when you realize what he's singing about.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that guitar distortion kicks in at the chorus, it adds kind of an even more serious feel to it. Towards the end, he's got this kind of like, sort of has a bridge part on it. It's kind of got this like soaring guitar solo. It sounds like really important. And again, I just use the word like very serious sounding. But when you realize, kind of like, well, Eddie sounds more fun, but when kind of like Eddie, when you realize what he's singing about, it's like, oh, and this one you definitely feel like you're in on the joke. Like you get the joke because it sounds at first maybe like some kind of serious love song, but then when you realize what he's singing about, it's quite funny. Should I read the lyric, Clifton? Should we just talk about it? Some people probably already guessed with just the name Anakin.
I think the chorus will do it.
Yeah, he says, but something's different. Now you found your heart again. So this is heaven, Anakin.
But something's different since you found your heart again. So this is heaven, Anakin.
Of course, this is a reference to Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, and end of Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader kind of comes back to the light side for a minute, And at the end, he says, "How you feeling now that you're in heaven, Anakin?" Someone made, I sent it to Clifton. We can put a link to it. Someone made, and I think it was somebody close to the band, made like a unofficial video for this. It's just footage of Darth Vader, I think from all the Star Wars, with some other stuff interspersed, but it's pretty funny, like seeing that and then hearing this song. I will also say that when I've done any kind of digging on this band, and it's just from Facebook posts or a few other things, this is a song that everybody talks about. For some reason, this stood out most in people's minds.
See, I'm going to criticize this again. Like my only note on this song is weird ballad about Darth Vader. Because it's once again, it's a very serious song as you explained. But they never wink at you. It's just serious through the end. It's like, as you said, it has these soaring, like solos and like really powerful vocals, and then it's just over, and you're like, oh, that was just a ballad about Darth Vader.
Yeah, but I guess that's why it's funny, because it's about Darth Vader. This is before the prequels came out, so this is not...
Yes,
people were not thinking, I think, as much about Star Wars then as they probably are now, or even just a few years later.
Well, in the mid-90s, there were those re-releases.
Right.
Remember the remastered re-releases in theaters of the Star Wars?
I think this was even before that, though.
Okay, was it? Okay.
I think those were a couple years later, just based on how old I was when I saw them.
You might be right, yeah.
So I think, to me, that's what I think is funny about it, is that it's so serious sounding, but then you realize, oh, it's about Darth Vader. So it's not the best song. Musically, again, I like a little bit more of the upbeat stuff. Yeah. It's too long. They probably need to cut it down, but it's funny.
It's just a ballad about Darth Vader. They never wink at you.
But, a lot of people like Star Wars, so...
It's true.
Yeah, probably worth checking out.
I want more layers in my weird music, but okay. All right, well, what are your overall thoughts on this album?
Well, it's a weird album because it doesn't really belong in the Christian market at all. And it probably suffers kind of from being trapped there.
Mm.
Could it have made it in the regular? I don't know. I mean, and also I love some of the songs like Eddie. I do like Anakin. Even I Like Me, I think it's really catchy. Be Beautiful, we talked about, it's good. But again, this was self-produced, and I wonder if it wouldn't have been better with a different producer. New ideas, new takes on the songs. I also think it might have been better as an EP. Get rid of at least the Split Ends cover. Maybe keep in Best Friend's Girlfriend. Drop some of the songs like Funky Chick and narrow it down. But it's not. We've definitely already at this point in podcast done albums I liked less than this, including Curious Fools.
But this is better than that album.
I know it's probably people are listening like, what? But, so mixed.
There is a market in the general market for kind of geeky, fun songs,
Yeah.
And if they had gone after that more than just pointed it out on the record label they had, I don't know. But then again, I'm suddenly reminded of the fact that you said that the second Curious Fools isn't that the one that was released on Via first, and it was only released to the general market?
That's what I saw online. Yeah, so maybe they were trying to push this like that.
Maybe so.
And just didn't really get anybody to pick it up.
Yeah.
I do think you're right. I think if you had a whole album of songs kind of like Eddie and Anakin and stuff, it might have gotten popular just because people are like, oh, this is funny. He's singing about movies and, pop culture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. So
sadly. So what are your thoughts on the cover art?
I love the cover art. I think it's great. I think it does kind of fit at least what they were trying to do on this. So I'm a pretty big fan of that. I think it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty classic, and it even reminds me, isn't there like that Skedaddles album later on that has almost the exact same cover art, like a kid eating cereal?
Right, but more modern. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Packaging?
Maybe almost a little too simple. It's nice. I mean, it's got a color back with the credits. It's mostly black and white inside, and it's just kind of like a 3 pages that fold out.
Yeah.
The thing I would have liked to have seen is just a little more info.
Right.
I just want to know, again, I don't even know who some of these people are because you only use their last name.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes albums that give you way too much. This one did not give you enough.
Yeah, and I think that's a thin line to walk, because I think back to that time when we didn't have that kind of information on bands. We talked about this a little before on the podcast, where there was just this mystique to these bands when you didn't know anything about them, and it's very weird that that you could kind of wrap yourself in this whatever story you wanted to. Remember when the Hives came out and they made up their own story about whether or not they were an engineered band,
Right.
and it was 2004, 2005, so it was kind of hard to figure out whether or not that was true.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first found Bell and Sebastian, in the very early 2000s, and you're like, well, what, they kind of made up their own story and it wasn't true. And it took a few years for that to come out in interviews, but they didn't do interviews at first, So I think there's a very fine line to walk there. I think this, once again, there's some unused potential there where they could have made up their own background story here, just had a little bit of fun with it, since they're doing this kind of tongue-in-cheek type thing.
That's a good point. Made it more of a mystery and kind of built into that. And maybe they did a little bit. Again, it's really hard to find anything about this now.
Right.
I like that. They could have made it a little more mysterious.
Anything else?
I think it sounds good. It's not a problem with the sound, or anything like that. So they're obviously skilled at recording and producing. Again, I think a different producer, it might have been interesting to see what they could do, but it's not
just to bring in those outside ideas,
right? Yeah, but it's not terrible sounding or sounds cheap or anything like that. It still holds up, I think, sound wise.
Yeah, I agree. So, do you have any more information on where these guys are now than we covered on the last episode?
Yeah, I told Clifton. I said, "Hey, I'm just gonna say literally exactly what you said last episode." I'll just sum it up. No, Stephen Murray was kind of the main guy. He's done a few things since then. I think his most recent thing, he's founded something called Bingeable that's in the entertainment industry. Troy Deaton played with a few other bands like My Little Dog China. He produced and engineered an Everyday Life album, and then he still plays some. I cannot find anything on Dave Frank. I don't know who Roy or Prune are, unfortunately. So I can't. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't tell you really more. And again, I don't even know if they ever played this out live. I would hope they did at some point, but it might have just been a studio side project.
You think it'd be fun for Cornerstone, you go there for Curious Fools, and then they find some small side stage to go throw Dell Griffiths on, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, and maybe they did in '95. I don't know.
Do you have an award for this album, Jay?
I do, and I struggled with this one, but what I finally landed on was the side project should be the main project award. Because again, I think Clifton and I both like this more than Curious Fools. I realize probably a lot of people disagree, but that's where we are.
I would have liked to see them develop this style or approach more. Maybe to them it's just kind of like bubblegum and stupid, but I like the music more. It's more entertaining.
It makes me wonder if there are any other songs out there that they worked on and either didn't finish or just didn't release. Like this.
Yeah.
This is fun, and again, Eddie is fantastic, and I would love to hear more like that.
And there's 3 more years of Curious Fools after this album until they break up. So
True.
Well, what are we doing on the next episode?
It's Christmas time, or it will be Christmas time. So we're going to do Christmas in Heaven, a compilation presented by Flying Tart Records that some of you may remember back in the day. I'm looking forward to this one.
I never heard it. I'm not a fan of Christmas music.
Well, hope you can endure for one episode, Clifton. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us. If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us.
Send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com. The music in this episode is the work of the Dell Griffiths and is used with apologies, not permission. I don't think you can buy it.
Nope.
Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Good remembering when this is going to come out. That's the high-level podcasting shit. So.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, when you opened that can, it was so loud.
I know. I like moved it away from the microphone.
I noticed you did, but I was like, "Whoa, was that an original clip?" No.
Sorry. Okay. Well, that went well, and it shouldn't be too long.
And I think we still had some fun little stuff to say about it, so I think
Oh yeah.
I think it'll be all right.
Hey, Eddie! I can relate.
I have one more direction I want to approach this from.
Please do.
With the title "My Bike," I was expecting something Pee Wee Herman based. It's not, but maybe it is.
Oh.
What year was Pee Wee Herman caught in that theater?
Oh, interesting. I don't know, Clifton. I know that Pee-wee's Big Adventure definitely came out before this came out. Yeah, I forgot Paul Rubens. For a while, he was just known as the masturbator, right?
Yes, 1991. So before this.
Okay, so are you saying maybe this is some really high-level shit where it's like, actually, they're talking about Paul Rubens as Pee Wee Herman and bike and sex and all that. It has nothing to do with them at all.
Maybe?